Was Larian's recent Divinity cinematic announcement trailer too gross? I don't know, you tell me. I do want to quickly preface, and I wish I didn't have to even say this, but there's a lot of people out there that look at everything as black and white and have no nuance in their brain at all. They have no way of thinking any deeper on an issue than what their first emotional reaction is to an issue. If you guys see a YouTube creator blur or censor or decide not to show the Divinity trailer, the reason why is not because of personal morality feelings or their own feelings on the trailer. It's because YouTube's system for age restricting or demonetizing videos is really confusing, and a lot of us creators don't really know what's going to happen. And what I've noticed after 12 years on YouTube is that they tend to age restrict or demonetize the sexy type stuff more so than the gory type stuff. So that's why I blur some of these scenes and not other scenes. And I choose to blur actually because I want you guys to know that there was something there versus just cutting it completely out. So you can go watch the actual trailer if you want to. But back to the main discussion. So is the trailer too gross? Meaning they should have toned it down a little bit. Well, when you see people post, I've seen a lot of X posts that went like semi-viral where people were posting that it was too gross, that it disturbed them, etc. Who are you to tell someone that something isn't too gross? That's a personal feeling. If somebody is disturbed or they don't feel right watching that trailer, maybe they're not into more horror type things, which is totally understandable, they have every right to feel that way. Now, if you are somebody that felt that way, I do want to just let you know that the game itself probably won't be like that at all times. There might be some kind of gross cinematics, but looking at Larian's history, when you get into the game itself, like the gameplay, it's probably not going to have that vibe at all times. Even though I do think this one will be darker than Original Sin 1 and 2, the moment-to-moment gameplay is likely not going to always have that vibe. There's probably going to be a ton of happy, immersive moments where you're hanging out with fantasy races and exploring a city and all of that. Even look at Baldur's Gate 3. The announcement trailer was really dark. The man basically explodes and turns into a space octopus in a really disgusting way, but the game itself doesn't really feel that way, even though it does have dark moments. So when someone says that it disturbed them or that it was too gross, I'm not going to personally attack them. However, I will stand up for the trailer and say that I like it that way. I think that Larian did a great job, and I'm going to talk about why I feel that way here shortly. But when people feel that way, it's fine. And also keep in mind, this was at the Game Awards. Last year's Game Awards had like over 175 million people watching, and even though Larian's trailer did start off with for mature audiences only, this was a little bit unexpected for a lot of people, and a lot of people that don't also watch this type of, you know, content. They're there for games and stuff, and although some games are dark, this was probably, yeah, this was the darkest trailer at the Game Awards. Hell yeah, Larian. Now, did I personally think it was too gross? Abso-freaking-lutely not. This is probably one of my favorite trailers in the past decade of gaming. Now, I am a big fan of Larian and their games, so there's probably a little bit of bias in there, ramping up my excitement. But I love this trailer. I love that Larian didn't hold back. And I almost feel like I am more personally invested in seeing what this upcoming game is than even Baldur's Gate 3. Now, the main reason why I really like this trailer and the direction that Larian took it is because I feel extremely emotionally invested in whatever's going to happen in this Divinity game now, because it feels like there's a real evil that's stirring versus a Disney monster hiding in the closet. The darker and the less that a company holds back, in my opinion, as long as they're being authentic and they're not just doing it for the sake of doing it, as long as it's authentic to the world and the story, the darker and the more real that a studio can be with these stories, the more emotionally invested a lot of players are going to become. And even if you're someone that really doesn't like anything evil, you can be the one that fights and takes out this evil. Take it that way. See all this crazy debauchery going on. You see this evil demonic type stuff going on in these rituals. Come into this world. I'm almost certain that Larian will give you the option to dispel all of this or work against it. You're not going to be forced to be like an evil character. If you are a gamer who likes mature themes, etc., would you be more emotionally invested in taking out a Disney monster that's going to crack some jokes and be funny and entertaining? Or would you rather be up against something that is true evil and not holding back and a genuine threat to the world and those around it? That's what role-playing is all about. And trailers like this really get me invested into the world because I know it's a serious thing when I'm role-playing, of course. It's real, it's evil, it's dark, and I'm going to feel that way as a player versus feeling like things are not that scary or important. One quick example would be Dragon Age the Veilguard, not only in its art style and like what it's willing to visually show. I mean, think of the Dragon Age, the first trailer, the companion trailer that they did. It completely set the wrong vibe for a dark, mature universe, but also Dragon Age the Veilguard in the way that it handles themes and mature themes in Dragon Age lore, but in the game it kind of sanitizes everything and holds back and doesn't tell you how it actually is. And maybe that works for some people that, you know, like rated E type games. There's nothing wrong with those games, but people that enjoy that type of media all the time, like maybe that works for you. But for someone like me, an example would be slavery in that game is very minimally represented. It's definitely not told how it is, nor is it shown how it is. So like, why do I even care in this world about slavery? Shit, this is the first game where I supported slavery. I wanted more slavery in Veilguard so I could actually be emotionally invested in fighting evil in this game and stopping it, but they don't really show anything, and it's just kind of a Disney fest in a way. Like I said, a studio has the right to make a game any way that they want, but one, you're going to lose a lot of players like myself who like much more mature, darker type games and media, and you're also going to have a lot of players question, why are you doing this? Especially when it comes to a world like Dragon Age, such a mature world, such a dark world, so well written, some of the best world building out there. Why are you doing this? Are you doing it to appeal to children, or are you doing it because you have some interior motive and some message that you're trying to spread, or you're scared that the players can't handle a certain theme? Like, for some reason, you get the feeling that EA, for example, might think that showing slavery in their games or something is going to make people in the United States offended because it's part of our history. It's part of world history, first of all, okay? And no, it's not going to offend any reasonable, sane person to have it in a game, especially a freaking fantasy world that isn't related to American history or anything like that. So it makes you question that stuff, and then it kind of makes you go, I don't know if I even want to play this game, because I don't need developers teaching me or trying to hold back on themes because they think it's wrong or they're afraid that it's going to mentally affect me in some way. It's just, that's cringe, man. YouTuber Cal Elizabeth posted on X, Larian is such a great studio because they're not afraid to push boundaries. Gore, sex, violence, dark stories, controversial themes, and evil choices. They don't hold back or sanitize stories to make them more palatable. Agreed. That's what we just talked about. But the response from Larian's director of publishing was the phrase, treating the audience with a level of intellectual respect, came up a lot in planning. It isn't about, because he made a correction here, he meant to say isn't. It isn't about trying to shock them. It's about trying to match their powers of comprehension so that it resonates. We know people are capable of appreciating a three-dimensional world. So treating the audience with a level of intellectual respect is apparently a motto at Larian with the design teams and the way they tell stories. And what that means to me is that they're going to tell the story the way it is and not be afraid that us viewers are going to somehow, for example, start putting people up on wickers when we go outside and burning them alive. I don't know how EA really was with Dragon Age the Veilguard, but like, it's kind of funny to think about like EA and works with BioWare, of course, like saying that, oh, we can't show this slavery because WolfheartFPS might go outside and grab a couple slaves on his way to Walmart today. Now, we of course don't know for sure what EA and BioWare were thinking with themes like that and why they sanitized certain things. Maybe they genuinely wanted to create like a Disney game, but then again, the game's rated M, so that doesn't make much sense. But regardless, things in that game start pointing towards you feeling like you are not being told things because you either aren't smart enough to handle it, or you perhaps don't understand it correctly, and maybe you're going to take it the wrong way, or perhaps you might be offended by something. And most people don't want that in their video games. We want to play the game, we want to experience it how it is, we want you to tell the truest story that you possibly can. And even if I disagree with a certain theme or something like that, tell it how it is, and I will still like it, because I don't really get that angry when I don't agree with everything in a video game, as long as it feels authentic and it doesn't feel like you're trying to be my parent. And this even ties into like the lizard stuff that you see in the trailer. I can't use too many words here, but if you guys have watched the trailer, you know what happens with a lizard in that trailer and a human. Well, Larian's just showing it how it is, and they're not expecting people to all of a sudden, you know, go to the pet store like I did last night and get a couple pet lizards. They value the intelligence of their viewers to see something like that and be able to intellectually think about it and not be someone that supports hee-hee-hality, you know what I'm saying? Very, very different thing here. In a lot of fantasy worlds, you have a lot of humanoid creatures that are very human-like. That's why they're humanoids. And especially in Divinity, they have intelligence levels that are equal, if not smarter than humans. So things like this are just going to happen. And guess what? If you're somebody that really hates it, you really hate it, kill them. This is an RPG. When you get into the Larian game, kill the lizards and humans that get together like that. I support you in your choice. Do what you got to do. Now, another reason why I think it's great that they showed stuff like this, the lizard thing, if you really hate what you saw with the lizard and the human, which I totally understand, they also had like a little girl laughing and smiling while the man was being burned alive. All of this should emotionally invest you into solving this evil and ridding the world of this debauchery, because that village didn't look like they were too good. Even the actual villagers were supporting all this weird sacrificial stuff. Larian's got the throw up with the pigs and all that, which is disgusting, but you're supposed to feel disgusted. So get in there, dispel this evil, so you don't see stuff like that happen anymore. That's one way that you can look at it. You have to have real friction in these games to really emotionally invest people. And if you're someone that really dislikes the villagers, great. Get in there, get the job done. Massacre them. And the other reason why I like the trailer, which I kind of already touched on, so I'm going to keep this really quick, is just I like to see companies like Larian, really notable, highly respected, some of the biggest companies in the industry. Larian's one of the biggest companies now, not when it comes to employee size, but in terms of just respect and notoriety. It's great to see a company like them do something so dark and mature, even if to some people it's a little bit overboard. It's great to see them kind of lead that charge or be part of the charge, because we have seen a little bit of like a trend of feeling like things are getting Disneyfied a little bit in the industry. So when we have companies like Larian, you know, one of the most respected RPG companies, going the opposite route of Disneyfication with this trailer, they kind of inspire, influence the rest of the industry. So I think this is a better trajectory to be on rather than the Disneyfication trajectory. Ultimately, though, it's going to be very subjective as to whether or not somebody thinks it's too gross or not. And I think the majority of RPG and Larian fans are really liking what Larian is doing here and setting that dark, very mature tone. You got to keep in mind, a lot of people that watch this trailer are not Larian fans, because it was shown at the Game Awards in front of potentially hundreds of millions of people. So you have a lot of people that are chiming in that don't even have any interest, even in the RPG genre. So that doesn't really matter. I really appreciate Larian saying that they really value their viewers' intelligence, though, because it's watching this stuff doesn't make me support it. It doesn't mean that I like it like as its own specific concept on its own, but I like it being real and authentic to a world. Evil is supposed to be evil, and weird things are supposed to be weird. And I think that's great. It makes the world much more interesting than a sanitized world that's afraid to show things. So bravo to Larian for the trailer. Damn, it was good. I might go watch it right now. I'll catch y'all later.